Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Ontario Vintage Tractor. If you watched our last video on our 1950B, we got it running. However, when we did, we had a bit of a catastrophic failure. I guess there was so much rust inside from years of sitting with a broken manifold and the exhaust off, it rusted out the valves pretty bad. And upon firing it up, one of the stems broke off at the bottom, dropped down into the cylinder, and caused a big failure. So what I was gonna do is take the head off, get a valve job done, and run it. However, I came across something that made my life a lot easier. I had a friend of mine who had an engine for a B, and it's all refreshed and ready to go. So he's been through it, we know it should run, and today we're gonna put it in. So stay tuned, here we go. Okay, so the first things we got to do here, that other engine didn't come with a manifold, so we're going to have to take this manifold off that you watched me put on in the last video. I've already removed the ignition, but the GoPro didn't seem to catch that, so I got that all sorted out now. Got the fuel line off, and I do have a 12-volt alternator to put on this as well, so we're not going to reuse the generator. Got to remove the shield and get this thing split. So let's get started. So the first thing we're going to have to do is remove these other 5 remaining bolts holding the manifold on. That's going to release everything. Yeah, and you watched me put this on in the last video. Normally I would take a lot more care heating these up and not just hit them with the impact, but I know they're just going to fly off, so I'm not worried about nothing. All right. And we got to get that throttle linkage off as well. It shouldn't be too hard here. It's one screw. Okay, that's off, and off comes the manifold. Nope. One more. I forgot this one doesn't have a manual choke in the sense of you have to do it from off the tractor like the other ones that I've got, so this one has 2 linkages. Hopefully we can save that gasket because I don't have another one. It's pretty stuck there. I don't like that. Grab a scraper and see if I can pull it away nicer. Normally I'm not the kind of guy to reuse a gasket, but in this scenario I'm going to. Worst case, I can change it later. That's not too bad. We'll get away with that. With our manifold removed, I'll probably shine a light in there and be able to see what's broken better. I'm kind of curious. Not that it means anything, but maybe I can show you guys. Yep, right there. There is a missing exhaust valve. That makes sense. That's right where the manifold is broken. So for the front shroud, there's a couple of bolts right under here, and we'll take the rag cap off, and it should weasel out on its own. Those bolts removed, this should end up sliding off for us. Probably go ahead and bang some of those dents out when we go to put that back on, and hopefully do something with this too. The bypass tube is missing. So next thing we're going to do, remove these hose clamps and take the pieces off of the front bolster. So there's 4 bolts down here that hold this front support in. We can get those out because they're bringing the studs with them. There we go. I think the battery might be getting low. Yeah. I'll put that on charge, grab another one. That rad should be off. Oh, apparently there's still some ice cube juice in there. I was not aware of that. Rad is off. Okay, so we have our hoisted up underneath. We're just going to support it, and then we'll bring the overhead chain fall down to eliminate the rest here. So that's it. Front end's off the ground. Put it in gear so it doesn't roll. We'll go ahead and remove the front axle. There's one cotter pin and one big nut. Whole assembly should slide forward for us. I'm going to try and do it leaving the steering on. Would be ideal. There we go. The axle down and out of the way. I think this plate is hitting the belt. There we go. All right. Now we're ready for our torque tube bolts right here. And then we can pull this thing off. Alright, let's see what we got here. Alright, just stock them up a bit. We'll go ahead and cut the wiring there. This wiring is not going to be the same at all. So might as well get rid of it all and make it new. Did I forget something? I did. I forgot a throttle on this end. Alright. this away. And there we go. So, as I mentioned, we will have to transfer the clutch over and the flywheel. Minimal mouse housing, which is nice. And the clutch appears to be in like really nice shape. It's like brand new. I don't see anything in here that would make me feel like we can't use this. Everything, nothing's rusty. Little bit of a mud dauber nest in there, but other than that, nothing that appears to be worrisome. So let's get that clutch pulled off, get it put on the other engine, and make these two halves one again. All right, first things first, we'll take the pressure plate off. Just be careful, this is under spring tension. There we go. Yeah, everything looks good back there. Like I said, a little bit of rust, but yeah, I had a new clutch in it. Look at that, brand new. Right on. I think somebody did some work to this tractor before it got parked. Kind of sad. It wasn't in bad shape. I don't think, I'm going to allow that flywheel to clean itself off so I don't put any high or low spots in it. And I'll go ahead and yank the flywheel. And watch out, these are usually quite heavy. There we go. This little handy dandy crate removed. Definitely going to keep that around. So I just take one of my old GM clutch alignment tools. It's not perfect, but you can kind of eye it up. It fits the bore and it'll get you somewhat centered. Doesn't fit the bore of the crankshaft correctly, but if you hold it in, it kind of holds it in its spot. So, like I said, it's not the perfect way. There is an alignment tool, but I've had very good success doing it this way too. And it's not quite right. Got to kind of center the clutch disc in there. That looks pretty darn close. So we're going to try that. up in there. So now let's put it on the tractor. So that's it, now we're getting close. Now, something you can do is engage the PTO. You turn the PTO shaft, and then that will turn the input shaft for you. There we go. That just went home nicely. Now that all that has made it up, we can go ahead and start putting our front axle assembly back in. Might have to bring that down a little bit. Enough to get that on there. Just gotta get her started. We'll take the weight off of that, because the rad kind of has to go on at the same time. Alright, now it's time to go ahead and get our manifold and carburetor and muffler put back on. I did go ahead and do a little bit of mock-up with the alternator. I took the original generator bracket here and I cut it down and straightened it out. So that's going to go right here in its original location. And hold down the manifold as well as locate our alternator where it needs to be and move that a bit. So to mount it on the bottom, I use the existing generator bracket and I just put a couple shims in it to shim it front to back. So yeah, let's get going and get this thing one step more closer to firing it up and get that manifold on there. So I've gone ahead and put the gasket up there already. Let's go ahead and get this lined up. Looks like it's where it needs to be. And we'll get our throttle linkage put on. And again, we'll just put this on loosely for now. We'll make our final adjustments when we go to snug it all up. Alright, so I'm just going to run everything down with the impact until it touches, and then I'll snug it all up after. And we need the wrench for the far one there. Okay, now that the manifold is on, we are ready to grab our rad and put that whole front bolster on. I should get new ones, but I really want to make this thing run and everything before I go spending a boatload of money. And what I haven't mentioned yet is I'm highly likely just going to sell this tractor. So if anybody's in the market for a B with a fresh engine, let me know. Okay, so there's two linkages on the carburetors. One is the choke, it's right here. That goes in with a single screw. And then the other one is back here. And that is our throttle, and we just have to put a cotter pin down through that one. Right now our choke is all the way open. So we'll zero that out. Go ahead and tighten that up. Okay, that works. Throttle's hooked up. Now we'll move on to putting the distributor back on. Okay, to install your distributor, you want to bring it up to top dead center on the number 1 cylinder on the compression stroke. Make sure you're on a compression stroke, or you'd be 180 degrees out, or air and abouts. So I've done that already. I even put a bore scope down there to check the valves, make sure they're closed so we know we're on compression without pulling the valve cover. So we're ready to drop on our ignition system. So the whole idea is that this is going to point to number 1 once we get that in there. So that's on. So if we put our cap on here, that's right there. So this is going to be number 1. And the rotor's right on it, so we know where we need to be. And like I said, we've verified that we are on compression stroke. So we'll go ahead and tighten this down. Now, in the previous video getting this running, I've checked it for spark and everything, so we should be good in that respect. So we got to put another cotter pin in there for the throttle linkage on this side. And then we'll put some spark plugs in it. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to see if it'll fire. I'll put a little bit of gas, put the fuel line on, put a bit of gas in it, and I'll power up the coil with a jumper wire just to see if it'll run. Now, these look rusty. It's just because they were sitting outside. They are brand new. Firing order on this tractor, if I'm not mistaken, is 1, 2, 4, 3, the same as the WDs. So that would make it 1, 2, 4, 3, and then there's your coil wire. Really don't like the way these fit. But it will at least make it run for tonight. All right, I've got power turned to the starter and I'm putting power to the coil. We do have a couple of leaks, not a big deal. We're still gonna try and fire it. There's some fuel in it. We'll let the bowl fill up here and we'll give it a shot. Enter power wire. And we're gonna throttle, some choke, and contact. the booster pack on it, give her a little more power. Definitely flooded. Definitely rolling over really slow too. I don't like that. I don't like this. Alright. I do have a couple more options here. It's really starting to make me grumpy. Need a better ground than this. Alright, let's try this again. Alright everybody, take like 300. It is the next day. I got tired last night, but I got all the batteries charged and we're going to give it a go and see what it'll do. I should probably hook the ignition up if that's my plan. Makes me a lot happier. Well, that's a wrap on this episode of Ontario Vintage Tractor. As you can see, out with the old and in with the new. The B run's good. I think I'm going to take some time, finish everything up, order a few more parts for it, get a temp gauge and finish all the wiring off and make it nice. Probably end up doing a bit of tin work. I already started straightening out the grill. So I say I'm not going to do a lot and I always end up getting carried away. So if you like what you're seeing, Please like and subscribe down at the bottom. Helps channel out, doesn't cost you nothing, and it's greatly appreciated. Until next time, take care.